All right, good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television. My name is Aishwarya Kapoor and here are the latest headlines. Nationwide strike called by central trade unions, all services including transport and banking to be hit. Radiologists and nurses also go on indefinite strike over non-resolution of issues with the centre. Egypt seeks a deeper anti-terror ties with India, pitches for strong collective action against radicalization. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj calls on Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Prime Minister Modi to depart on two-nation tour of Vietnam and China today. Talks with the Vietnamese leadership on strengthening defense and trade ties. India's engagement in oil exploration to also figure. Home Ministry suspends 4 officials for allegedly facilitating renewal of license of Islamic preacher Zakir Naik's NGO. And a powerful 7.1 magnitude quake strikes northeast of New Zealand coast, biggest quake to hit North Island in 20 years. Well, Bharat Bandh is our top story. 10 central trade unions have given a call for a one-day nationwide strike today. Well, the call for the strike is against what they call is unilateral labour reforms of the centre. Well, as a result of the strike call, banks, factories, insurance companies and many government offices are likely to be closed. Services in various sectors including electricity, transport, mining, defence, telecom and insurance will be affected. Now, the unions claim that the government has ignored their 12-point charter of demands. Meanwhile, the centre has asked all the ministries to ensure that public utilities and essential services are not affected. Now, secretaries of all the government departments have been asked to take effective measures for smooth running of various services. Now, Indian Railways and other central government employees will not participate in strike as government has already constituted a committee to look into their demands. Meanwhile, in West Bengal, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee hardened her stand against the strike, warning of a strong action against those who disrupt public life. She said there is no bandh in her state and she has directed the Kolkata police to deploy around 3,000 personnel to check any untoward incident.
গাড়ি চালান নিশ্চিন্তে যদি কোনো গাড়িতে কোনো ভাঙচুর হয় সরকার ক্ষতিপূরণ দেবে যদি কোনো দোকানদারের কোনো দোকানে কেউ আঘাত করে ক্ষতিপূরণ হবে আরেকটা আমরা আইনও করতে যাচ্ছি যদি কেউ ভাঙচুর করে আর ড্যামেজ করে তাকে ক্ষতিপূরণটাও দিতে হবে তার কাছ থেকেও আমরা টাকা আদায় করব
Meanwhile, radiologists across the country are also going on an indefinite strike from today after failing to reach a resolution with the centre over outstanding issues. Now, the strike will severely affect radiology services like ultrasonography and other scan procedures. Lakhs of nurses in government hospital will go on an indefinite strike from today. Now, they are demanding redressal of issues related to pay and allowances. On to some other news now. Well, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has called for strengthening anti-terror ties with India. Well, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj called on the visiting Egyptian President on Thursday. Al-Sisi will meet the President and the Vice President today. He will also hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And a Director General level trilateral meeting was held between India, Iran, Afghanistan in Tehran, while ways to combat terror, implementation of connectivity projects and a host of other crucial issues were discussed during the meet. That was a follow-up to the first round of the trilateral meeting between Afghanistan, India and Iran held in New Delhi last April. Now, the External Affairs Ministry has said that the three nations emphasized the need for regional cooperation to counter current and emerging threats of terrorism and extremism. The trilateral dialogue was earlier held in 2012 and 2013 at the Joint Secretary level. Now, the dialogue may take place on the margins of the UN General Assembly in September at a similar official level.
In the meeting, a wide range of issues of common interest were discussed by the three parties, including the recent developments in the region and the trilateral political, economic, transit, and cultural cooperation. Discussing the situation in the region and Afghanistan, the three parties emphasized the need for regional cooperation to counter current and emerging threats of terrorism and extremism. In regard to the recent trilateral agreement signed by the three countries in May 2016 in Tehran on development of transit routes to Afghanistan and the region through the port of Chabahar, it was agreed that in preparation for use of Chabahar to this end, some specialized meetings and seminars be organized for relevant experts and representatives from trade and industry, and the recommendations of these meetings be reviewed in the next meeting of the Directors General, which will be held in Kabul. The three parties also...
Well, on to the other big story. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark on a hectic three-day two-nation tour to Vietnam and China. Modi will attend the G20 summit in China, signaling India's growing strategic presence in that region. Here are the details.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold bilateral meetings with the Vietnamese leadership on Saturday to deepen ties in key areas of defense, security and trade, and ramping up India's engagement in oil exploration. This will be the first prime ministerial visit to Vietnam in 15 years after former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee visited the country in 2001.
Defense and security cooperation with Vietnam is very robust, and it includes areas including counter-terrorism, transnational crimes. And in defense cooperation, our focus has been on capacity building, in training, in high-level exchanges, and more recently in defense procurement.
This is the venue where Prime Minister Narendra Modi with his entire delegation will be staying. Security has been heightened and there's excitement on the streets of Vietnam to see Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Remember, this visit is significant in the sense that it is the first visit by any Indian Prime Minister in the last 15 years. It's a celebration of the long-standing diplomatic and the cultural ties between the two nations. This visit is not only about the bilateral talks, but is also about establishing largely the strategic importance of India in Southeast Asia, especially when it comes close on the heels of the recent ruling by the Permanent Court of Arbitration.
The Prime Minister will then head to China on 3rd of September to attend the annual G20 in Hangzhou on 4th and 5th of September. At the summit, India is likely to see concrete measures to check terror financing and crack down on tax evasion. On the sidelines of the summit, Modi will also hold a bilateral meeting with the Chinese President Xi Jinping.
Our priorities at this G20 summit are going to be the cross-border mobility of professionals, particularly in services, the reduction in remittance costs from overseas Indians, poverty eradication, moderation in consumption and more sustainable lifestyles, and improved technology access, particularly for renewables and post-harvest agriculture activities.
The Prime Minister will return to India on 5th of September and leave for Laos on a two-day visit to attend the 14th India-ASEAN Summit and the 11th East Asia Summit on 7th and 8th of September. At the India-ASEAN Summit, Prime Minister Modi and ASEAN leaders will review India-ASEAN cooperation and discuss its future direction under each of the three pillars of political security, economic and socio-cultural cooperation. With Akhilesh Suman, this is Neelu Vyas's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, our correspondent Neelu Vyas is in Hanoi to get you all the latest updates on the Prime Minister's crucial visit. Well, she spoke to the former ambassador to the United Nations, Nguyen Kivi Bin, on what makes this bilateral visit a significant one, especially in the wake of the UN Tribunal's verdict on the South China Seas dispute. Let's listen in.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's brief visit to Vietnam is keenly watched by ASEAN nations as well as the G20 nations. What is the meaning of this brief visit and how does India position itself strategically in this meeting? Joining me now is the former ambassador to United Nations from Vietnam. He is Nguyen Q Bin, who is also currently the member of the Permanent Court of Arbitration. Welcome to Rajya Sabha TV, sir.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Okay.
My first question to you, sir, is that what according to you is the real meaning of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Vietnam at this point of time?
This is an important visit, not only on the bilateral relation between Vietnam and India, but also for the region. When the issue of South China Sea become, hot and become, to attract more attention from many countries. So the India's position on this, together with ASEAN and other of the world, is very significant.
So, do you believe that this visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to be some kind of a signal to China that, look, we will hold hands, India and Vietnam will hold hands towards resolving the South China Sea dispute?
Exactly. India has already expressed its support to the court's ruling, and by the visit of the Prime Minister himself, it is of the more direct indication of India's intention, and also I believe that the two Prime Ministers will exchange views on South China Sea.
So you mean to say that when Vietnamese Prime Minister and the Indian Prime Minister meet, their main point of discussion is going to be the code of conduct vis-a-vis China?
Exactly, that's what I want going to say, that the code of conduct for the South China Sea is an issue between ASEAN and China.
Right.
And then I believe that during the discussion, the two Prime Ministers will express views on, the next step. We already have the DOC, that means the Code of Conduct, Declaration of the Conduct, but then the COC, the Code of Conduct itself, is already on the agenda in ASEAN and China.
So what kind of role does India play in this entire scenario of South China Sea dispute, really?
Of course, India is a big nation. Okay. India is also neighbor to ASEAN countries. And bilaterally, Vietnam and India have also very good relation. India also had the oil contract in the continental shelf of Vietnam. Now, the position of India will help, politically, for the solution, and then it will help to consolidate the court's decision based on international law, especially the freedom of navigation in South China Sea, freedom of overflight, and the fishing, ordinary fishing of people of the coastal countries.
Okay. Thank you, Ambassador, for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, back home, the government late last night suspended 4 Home Ministry officials for allegedly facilitating the renewal of FCRA license of an NGO promoted by Islamic preacher Zakir Naik, against whom several probes are now on. Now, those suspended are 2 undersecretaries and 1 section officer. The action was taken after the Home Ministry found that Naik's NGO, Islamic Research Foundation's FCRA license, was renewed recently despite several ongoing probes, including one by it. Now, Minister of State for Home Kiren Rijiju tweeted to inform about the decision, saying the action against 2 undersecretaries and 1 section officer was due to their negligence in clearing the renewal, while a case is still pending, unquote. Well, on to some other news. An Australian court has confirmed its preliminary decision asking the Australian newspaper to provide all leaked data of India's Scorpene submarine to French shipbuilder DCNS. The court has also asked the paper to stop publishing any more details. Now, the paper will provide DCNS with all the documents in its possession, underlining that confidentiality of information and communication is a matter of utmost importance. DCNS said that it welcomes this decision of the court. The French company has filed a complaint against unknown persons for breach of trust, receiving the proceeds of an offence, and aiding and abetting before the Paris public prosecutor. Over 22,000 pages of top-secret data on the capabilities of 6 highly advanced submarines being built for the Indian Navy in Mumbai in collaboration with the French company have been leaked. Well, in breakfast news, time to take a very short break. We'll have more international news and sports news on the other side. Stay with us.
Hello and a warm welcome to It's My Life, the program that brings you face to face with country's top politicians.
I've been flying for a very long time. It's a passion of mine.
अगर मैं बोलूं मिठाई, कराची हलवा, कॉमेडियन, जाने वाकर। ये मेरी जो भाभियां हैं ये प्रसन्न रहेंगी तो मुझे ठीक से खिलाएंगी, तो इसलिए मैं तो अपनी सारी भाभियों की चमचागिरी करती हूँ।
मैं तो चला जिधर चले रास्ता।
You can't be a successful MP without your wife, huh?
I can't be successful anything without my wife.
शॉर्टकट में सबको खुश करने के लिए चल धन्नो आज तेरी इज्जत का सवाल है.
See, whenever you play golf, you forget about anything. You forget even your own wife also.
Most handsome MP in Parliament.
Manoj Tiwari.
Watch It's My Life at these times, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Now, the Supreme Court's efforts to broker peace between Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi and the RSS fizzled out on a Thursday when the Amethi MP refused to give a statement that RSS had no role to play in Mahatma Gandhi's assassination. He instead opted to face a trial for criminal defamation for his 2014 Bhiwandi election speech. He will now have to appear in person in court.
Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi told the Supreme Court on Thursday that he is ready to be tried on charges of defaming the RSS as he refused to retract what he had said at a 2014 Bhiwandi election rally. Gandhi's counsel Kapil Sibal informed the court of Rahul Gandhi's decision and said that the case can go to trial. Gandhi stood firm by his stand that he never blamed the RSS as an institution but only certain people associated with it for the assassination. He has also withdrawn his petition to quash the criminal defamation complaint and summons issued against him.
We insisted that what we had said, we will not back off from. What we had said was on record. The other side said that this was a case of defamation. We believe it is not a case of defamation, and we told the court that we are willing to go to trial.
The Supreme Court bowed out of the litigation, saying, "We are not inclined to interfere now. Let the trial magistrate proceed according to law." The court, however, refused to grant Rahul Gandhi exemption from appearance in the trial.
In fact, the Honorable Court has declined the request of the advocate for Mr. Rahul Gandhi because it is in the domain of the trial court to grant exemption or not. They have to face the trial as per the procedure before the trial court, including all the applications they make.
The RSS says the Congress VP is out to malign the organization.
ललित जी ने ये कहा मेरे सीनियर काउंसिल ने कि बार बार जहाँ पर इलेक्शन होता है उसी समय संघ के ऊपर गांधी हत्या के बारे में झूठे इल्जाम कांग्रेस के तरफ से लगाए जाते हैं, इसलिए ये बार बार राहुल गांधी के तरफ से हो रहा है. उन्होंने एफिडेविट दायर करने के बाद वापस आसाम में चुनाव के रैली में ऐसे एलिगेशन लगाए थे.
RSS is the most patriotic organization ever seen in India. I have seen RSS closely and I have never come across any other organization coming close to RSS when it comes to nationalism.
Earlier, the RSS had said that the case against Rahul Gandhi could be withdrawn if he states publicly that he does not blame the RSS as an institution for the death of Mahatma Gandhi. With inputs from Ravindra Shoran, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now a look at the flood situation across the several states of the country. Well, with 4 more deaths on Thursday, the toll in Bihar floods has risen to 172. Swirling waters of the Ganga has inundated 12 districts of the state. However, the water level of the Ganga receded at Digha Ghat, Gandhi Ghat and Munger, but the river was flowing above the danger mark at Hatida, Sohabganj and Farakka. More than 37 lakh people have been affected by the floods at different parts of the state so far. Meanwhile, in Assam, 4 members of a family were washed away in a landslide triggered by heavy rains and flood near Silchar. Now, 7 more houses were also washed away by the heavy rains in the nearby village. Now, the NDRF, police and civil officials have launched a rescue and relief operation for the affected people. Meanwhile, in Jammu and Kashmir, incessant rains and landslides on Thursday blocked the 300-kilometer-long Jammu-Srinagar National Highway. Several vehicles were stranded in the landslide-hit area of the highway. Efforts on to clear the highway. Now, men and machinery employed in building the Chennai Tunnel on the highway have also been pressed into service to clear the highway. Now a look at the events that are slated for the day today in the day ahead. The Supreme Court will hear Tamil Nadu government's plea seeking release of 50,000 million cubic feet of water from Karnataka to meet its irrigation demands in the backdrop of Kaveri water row. The plea also seeks the court's intervention to ensure that Karnataka adheres to the stipulated water releases in accordance with the 2007 order of the tribunal for the remaining months starting from 20th of August in the irrigation year of 2016-17. The Supreme Court will also hear the Delhi government civil suit seeking a declaration that the national capital is a state and its petition against the order of the High Court, which held that the city is a union territory with Lieutenant Governor as its administrative head. Earlier on 4th of August, Delhi High Court had held that AAP government's contention that Delhi LG was bound to act on the advice of Council of Ministers was without substance. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee will leave for a week-long visit to Germany and Rome to attend Mother Teresa's canonization ceremony and meet potential investors as well. The Trinamool Congress Supremo has already clarified that she is not part of the central government's official delegation to the Vatican City for the ceremony on Sunday, but is going as a guest of Kolkata-based Missionaries of Charity, which was founded by Mother Teresa. On to some international news now. Well, in New Zealand, people living in the coastal areas of the North Island were temporarily ordered to evacuate due to fears of a tsunami after a severe earthquake at sea. Now, the magnitude 7.1 quake struck at 5 a.m. local time at a depth of 55 kilometers, 170 kilometers northeast of Gisborne. Now, residents across North that they felt shaking and rattling as the quake struck, but there were no immediate reports of any serious damage. Authorities said that while quake caused tsunami, only an 8-inch wave had been measured. Well, as the quake struck, people in and around the town of Gisborne, the largest populated area nearest to the epicenter, were told to go to higher grounds or go as far inland. The evacuation order and tsunami warning were later lifted. The authorities in Gisborne said that people could return home, but they were strongly advised to stay off the beaches. Each year, more than 15,000 earthquakes are recorded in New Zealand, but only about 150 are large enough to be felt. News from the Middle East now, and fighting has escalated in Syria. In the central province of Hama, Syrian government warplanes are reported to have bombed several areas in response to a major rebel offensive. Now, the rebels captured at least 14 villages in 4 days, prompting heavy government airstrikes. Both Syrian and Russian air jets were involved in the heavy airstrikes. Now, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that the rebel offensive was the biggest coordinated operation in Hama province since 2014. It added that at least 25 civilians had been killed in overnight strikes, including 6 children. However, the government media said that the concentrated strikes were against terrorists, adding that tens of them had been killed. With Hama province being of a vital strategic importance, the rebel push here marks a new challenge for President Assad and his allies. Meanwhile, the United Nations has said that while it was hopeful of an agreement on a broad ceasefire in Syria as discussions continue between officials from Russia and the US, it also expressed concern over the humanitarian crisis there.
Aleppo is one of the areas where we are ready to go immediately when there is a 48-hour pause. We're still negotiating the access road and the modalities of this, including with the armed opposition groups. It's urgent that we get an agreement. We were informed today that there are now 4,000 food rations left. That would be enough for 20,000 people, and the population of East Aleppo is 250,000. I'm hopeful that we will have a breakthrough.
Meanwhile, in Venezuela, dozens of demonstrators were arrested after clashes erupted between opposition protesters and police on Thursday. While the opposition Democratic Union coalition supporters flooded Venezuela's capital to press for a recall referendum this year against unpopular socialist president Nicolas Maduro. Now, the protesters blamed the president for the country's deep economic crisis and accused the Electoral Commission of deliberately delaying a referendum that could shorten his stay in power.
Y transformarla en oportunidad para que la nación pueda decir su palabra. Es preciso convocar una consulta y tal consulta tiene nombre y apellido. Su nombre es referendo y su apellido es revocatorio.
Meanwhile, in Europe, Spain's political crisis continues, with caretaker Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy set to face a second-round confidence vote today. However, having lost the first-round vote on Wednesday, 180 to 170, he is not expected to win the second-round vote either, at which he now requires only a simple majority. Rajoy will give a 10-minute introductory speech, after which spokespersons from other parties will be allowed 5 minutes each to reply. Now, if Rajoy loses the second-round vote as well, it increases the likelihood of a third election within a year. The stalemate has left the country without a fully fleshed government that stretches into a 9-month after general elections in December and June both failed to produce a conclusive result. Earlier, Rajoy had warned Congress members that a failure to install him as the Prime Minister would have threatened Spain's economic recovery. And now latest from the US Open. Well, defending champion Serena Williams cruised into the third round of the US Open with a 6-3, 6-3 victory over fellow American Vanya King. With this win, Serena reached another milestone in her illustrious career, earning her 306th career win at a Grand Slam. Her sister and world number 6 Venus Williams also won her second-round match against Germany's Julia Georges 6-2, 6-3, and she advanced into the third round. Meanwhile, 2011 US Open champion Australia's Samantha Stosur lost her second-round match to China's Shuai Zhang 6-3, 6-3. And in the men's singles, Britain's Andy Murray beat Spain's Marcel Granollers to reach the third round of the US Open. Murray, seeded second, won the match in straight sets 6-4, 6-1, 6-4. Well, that's all in this edition of news, but news and updates continue on your channel. Thanks so much for watching.